Hi, everyone. My name's Katie Bethell, and I'm the founder and executive director of Paid Leave for the United States, the campaign to win paid leave for everyone in the US by 2022. We're kicking off an interview series where I chat with dynamic leaders from around the country, and I'm pleased to welcome my friend and colleague, Ivellisse Morales, the CEO and founder of Bombilla. Thank you so much for joining us, Evie. I've loved working with you over the last many years. And I think to start, I would just love to hear about the vision that you had when you started your creative agency. You wanted to build a different kind of company.
Yes, that's exactly right. Thank you, Katie, and thank you also for the opportunity to share my story. Um, so I've been telling everybody that I'm trying to build the Pixar for progress. Bombilla is a branding and design agency for social change, and we're on a mission to make the world brighter by essentially helping systems changing organizations amplify the work that they're doing on the ground. And so my bread and butter is identifying talent of all creative disciplines with a focus on creating opportunities for folks who are historically underrepresented in the creative and media fields, primarily people of color, Black people, indigenous people, women, and really trying to build a workforce that's representative of the United States of America, because right now the corporate world and many other industries do not reflect the people. And so, my background is I've worked inside of shiny creative agencies, and after realizing that they're all broken inside, I realized, let me try to reimagine this and build my own as a true designer would. And really trying to operate a business in a capitalist system I know that is exploitative and extractive. And that's what happens in traditional agency models, right? Like we run on the billable hour. It's our human creativity, our human capital, our intellectual property, literally, that is being forced to produce, and that's not human. And so it's like, how do you have fun, do your craft, and make a living? And so that's what I'm trying to figure out with my business model, while also, determining like, what does a business look like that is anti-oppressive and anti-racist? And so, I'm 2.5 years in of building this creative company, and this is top of mind for me. There's no blueprint. And, I'm also not perfect. I have bias as well. And so, leaning on peers, mentors, experts, the people who work for me, and my community to make sure that I'm building the right type of business that embodies the future that we need to focus on, one that is regenerative, anchored in creativity, collaboration, and community, because that's the only way we're going to address all of the environmental social challenges plaguing us as humans. I like to say we can all be gainfully employed by them. And so I'm trying to create an employment pipeline. In my career background, I'm traditionally trained in public relations. I've done work in corporate social responsibility, dabbling in branding, design, marketing, strategy. And so, I've consulted Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, government agencies on their outreach strategies, philanthropic practices. And so really using all that I know to build something different and new, and
I
using the
love
power
what
of
you said.
communication.
I love what you said about creativity, community, and collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And those as sort of like, is it fair to say those are sort of your North Star as you think
Mm-hmm.
about the kind of company that you want to build?
Yes, that's exactly right. Mm-hmm.
I have one place I would love to sort of connect the dots a little bit more is those as values, as you outlined, are really rare in both the agency world and also in the overall economic system that we run as business values.
Mm-hmm.
And feels like there's probably a pretty close connection between that reality and the reality that women of color are so underrepresented as leaders in the business world today. So you
Mm-hmm.
talked a little bit about your own path to CEO. What is it about your experience, your lived experience, that makes you want to build a company in this new, different kind of model?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Well, it's interesting, right? To start, I hate actually calling myself CEO because, we're trying to paradigm shift and we're using words that describe what used to be. But I also know on paper it's, you know, legally what's required. um, but
It's literally a thing.
it's literally a thing, yeah. Um, but I would say, women of color, Black women, brown women are leaving the corporate world at unprecedented rates
Yeah.
because the work environment is harmful. Predominant, ones that are predominantly white that uphold white supremacist structures and policies, and so you know it's like, why try to work within that system when we can try to build our own? And in the last 2.5 years, it's honestly been my community that's uplifted me and has helped make this business shine bright, between my clients, my contractors, my service providers. They're all word of mouth, people in my first to second degree network, friends of friends, old bosses. I mean, I was even introduced to your organization through your board member who I met at a
Mhm.
client event. And so it feels like a community movement, being resourceful, resilient, bartering, really, we're not coming from money. Well, at least I'm not coming from money. A lot of us aren't starting businesses with capital, and access to capital is actually a huge barrier. And so, leaning, it's like my first few clients were my friends, and now my
Yeah.
friends in high places are hiring me. So, it's pretty amazing. And in this process, also just gaining financial literacy and understanding how this, um, game of Monopoly works and how to play in
Yeah.
it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It can be so I've had a similar experience in building a values aligned organization where sort of explaining to some of our stakeholders why we do things like offer 6 months of paid leave, which in the nonprofit sector is really rare. And I can imagine you've had similar kinds of conversations with your own stakeholders about, why bartering, why, and it's like, because this is the way that we change the system. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is what leadership looks like when you're really changing things.
Mm-hmm.
One piece of your practices that I think is hopefully why one of the reasons that we work together is as a company you have some great paid leave policies and a good approach to paid leave. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about if you have a personal experience with paid leave that sort of brought you into that as an issue that's a part of this overall equity conversation. I'd love to hear about that, and then how that informed the way that you built your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, one point of clarification is that at this current moment, I'm not at a stage in my business where where I am able to offer paid leave, like a formal paid leave policy to the people who work for me. The
Mhm.
majority of my workforce, they are independent contractors and they are in different states. And so, for example, in the state of California, we do have the option as self employed folks to enroll in a disability, elective insurance program, I
Mhm.
think it's what it's called. And so, that's an insurance in a way, where you can buy into a policy that protects you if you have to take time off. But that is a risk and a gap in my business. But I try to level set myself because the business of my dreams would have all of those generous benefits, but realizing that might take me 3 to 5 years to become profitable and to have the credit line and whatnot to sustain payroll. But for me personally, I had a big burnout in my last corporate job that required me to take time off, because I overworked myself. and, combination of work expectations and not having boundaries, as many people can probably relate. Being an overachiever. But I didn't even know that personal medical leave was an option. I thought that paid leave, was for people who, for birthing parents, for paternity and maternity leave, for bereavement, caregiving. I didn't realize until my doctor gave me the heads up that it was a possibility,
Mm-hmm.
given the fact that I was really suffering from mental health issues that was impacting the quality of my life and the quality of my work. And so having the privilege and access to paid leave and being able to take 6 weeks off um, gave me the space to breathe and heal, and also realize that I can't keep playing this corporate game. And that's when I decided to actually plan out what it would look like to work for myself. So because of paid leave and having that time to just be, not be scheduled to show up anywhere and just breathe, then gave me the expansiveness to think about what my future could look like outside of climbing the ladder on someone else's company that I don't want to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so much important things I want to touch on in what you just said. I mean, first, this idea that our human value, our human work product is this unlimited resource that we don't need
Mm,
time to recharge, that we don't
right,
need time to be whole human beings. Like,
right.
this is exactly one of the important pieces of having paid leave. We think a lot about, exactly as you said, how it's something that you need to take care of other people, but you got to take care of yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And I think, with the team that I currently have right now, um, we're all independent contractors, and in essence, that does give you flexibility and freedom. So you tell me what your capacity is, what you're interested in working on. Like, as a consultant, you shouldn't be working on things that don't bring you joy. Well, ideally.
Yeah, not if you can help it.
Ideally, yeah, exactly. Caveat. But like with the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter protests, you know, being cognizant that we all can't be present right now, and that, being sedentary in front of a laptop all day is also draining and exhausting. And so we have enough transparency and trust with one another to be like, hey, I can't today.
Yeah,
Like, can we push
yeah,
this deadline? I need a few days. Like, just, really being honest with each other instead of just smiling and pushing through, because we are doing creative work that requires, you know, our our brain. And if
mm-hmm.
we have a lot weighing on us physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, I can't expect anyone, let alone myself, to show up to our work. And so, because our clients are also doing the work, I think we all get it.
Yeah,
And I think one thing that we push gently against with our clients is urgency, right?
mm,
Urgency is a symptom of white supremacy. Urgency is hurried and unnatural, and things have to unfold organically.
mm.
A tree doesn't become a tree overnight. So how can you build a website in 2 days? you know? so it's like realizing, like, human capacity wise, like, we're all optimistic with time, and it's like we have to allow, yeah, our humanness to happen, because most of the times when things are urgent, there's more anxiety fueling the whole process, and it ends up taking as much time you had originally predicted.
You're on my like checklist of like places for my own white lady journey. This like urgency piece is like top of my list right now. I'm like, okay, yep, I get this. I'm seeing it. This is like that's where I'm on the journey.
Mhm.
You mentioned independent contractors, and I want to go back to that a little bit
Yeah.
because the one pattern that I've seen, both in some data and numbers, but also in the conversations I have with other women leaders, other leaders of color, other women leaders of color, like let's look at that intersectionality and those layers,
Mm,
is that there's a move to independent work because it allows for that flexibility that's more reflective of the sort of rhythm of our lives.
mm,
And that, putting that next to the sort of formal policies, or policies that you have, I think is a really important thing to look at, because it's not just that you have the right policy on the books, it's that you have the practices that enable that kind of
mm,
support. And
mhm,
so what I'm hearing you say is, where for your evolution in your business, where you don't yet have the policies, you
mhm,
have the culture and the practice.
mm,
And I wonder if you can speak a little bit to um, how you support that culture and practice that you're building in a system that pushes against it, that where you have clients who are like, okay, but I need it yesterday.
mhm. Yeah. Oof. There's certainly no blueprint. There are a lot of business bruises, as I call them. You just got to learn by doing and
Yeah.
make mistakes. And I think one thing that was missing in a lot of my work environments was good people management and being seen, heard, and valued as a person, and not just a producer. Um, and so I feel like I think I think if I'm not mistaken, they're like 5 generations under the work roof right now, um, and I feel like there's some older generations that created a culture in which you couldn't be friends with your coworkers,
Mm.
and I think millennials definitely shook that up on the inside in my experience. But just realizing like, yeah, you should give space for people to share how they're truly feeling, moving beyond the hey, how are you, good, how are you. And collaborative software like Slack allows multiple people to be in on water cooler
Mhm.
conversations, especially considering that for one, we've been remote and virtual since day one. So thankfully, that shift in work style and lifestyle wasn't too disruptive for us with COVID. But then that also puts more emphasis on creating opportunities for people to connect. Um, and as the CEO, I can't be facilitating all the connections. So with platforms like Slack or project teams, being able to like cross pollinate the different types of like designers and experts we have in our network. And one thing I like to do is like because there's so many simultaneous projects happening, like shouting people out for their great work.
Mhm.
And because, we're all designers and creatives and get inspired by each other, and also, giving each other affirmations and accolades for that. And yeah, so it's like, you know, when I think about the workplaces that kind of dimmed my light, it was because people were unhappy, overstressed, overworked, and not enjoying it.
Mhm.
And so, our tagline is lit on purpose, which really speaks to what happens when you're at the intersection of what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and the change that you want to see in the world, like the issue area that you truly see yourself making a difference in. And so I'm creating that container for people. And it's been a lot of fun to see it grow without me, if that makes sense. Like people
Mhm.
becoming friends and hanging out with each other and connecting and whatnot. Um, so yeah, it's like I'm building a collective that um, you know really embodies like the type of culture I wish I would have had,
Mm.
and is like representative of how I live and how I am with my own family, friends, and community.
Mm. I really like the way that you talk about your role as a leader as building a container. that it's how can you create this space where people can bring their full creative selves. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And part of that's
Mm-hmm.
time off.
Yeah, exactly. And just yesterday, two of my colleagues asked me when I was planning to take time off. And I forget that I can command that and put it on the calendar. And it's like, oh yeah, I should probably put one of those.
Yeah.
Because we all need to recharge. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How have you found within your company that coronavirus has impacted the ways that you work together and work with clients?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, honestly, I would say in terms of like our service delivery, what we do and who we serve and what our purpose and vision is, like that has not changed.
Yep.
There's still systemic change that has to be dismantled, or sorry, there's still a lot of systems that need to be dismantled and disrupted. So there's plenty of work in the systems change front. And having been virtual and remote since day one, and already virtually collaborating with one another across the country, with clients across the country, has proven that this model works. Everyone needs graphic design and marketing strategy, like communication strategy, whether it's to fundraise, to secure votes, or to make money. And so I have found that there has certainly been an uptick in Black and Brown owned small businesses, like we've been talking about, who need brand identity services. Um, and on the nonprofit side, I would say, everybody has been caught off guard. We're all trying to get our bearings and figure things out. So, projects were on pause, budgets were cut, were put on hold. But now that we're kind of emerging with this new virtual reality, no pun intended there, it's like now there's an opportunity for us to serve our clients in new ways, showing them that we're actually a network of experts beyond graphic design. There's a lot of strategy, research, and insights that drive branding and communication. um, yeah. And then one thing too that I want to note on the rise of Black and Brown women in particular leaving the corporate world, I would say, for some of us, it's by choice, and for others, it's out of necessity. Um, like the corporate world, racism is a public health issue, and to deal with it inside of, a corporate company where you might be the one and only, the one and lonely, it is a very harmful place to be. And so that drags you down, that drains you and drags you down. And what I found is like, particularly being in the social impact space and realizing how even social impact spaces still can be upholding what I thought I was trying to
In some ways
hide
worse.
from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Like,
even
what is
in my
philanthropy
career,
except for like a result of the excesses of capitalism?
exactly. So it's just like, yeah. So navigating that, so truly like my business is me, meant like expressed into the world. And it's like me trying to figure out these answers, while also making a living for me and others.
What advice do you have for other women of color who want to build something that challenges the status quo?
Mm. Ooh. Well, there's a lot of learnings that I've had in the last 2.5 years. And I think one of the feelings that's really real, and I feel like when I say it out loud, it's hard for people to accept it, but it is lonely, even though I'm surrounded by people, right? I don't have a co-founder or a second in command in that shape or form. And so I'm the visionary, and I'm the one who wakes up with the business and falls asleep with the business, and, you know, has to kind of be 8 different people. And so, you know, it's like, I can't like talk to my parents about business stuff, or my friends. I have business friends, but they have their businesses to run. So like there are elements where it's like you're kind of hiking in the wilderness, well, you know, like alone. And but you're not alone, but it feels lonely, because it's like a weight that I don't know how to explain. It's like you're trying to create something that doesn't exist, but you can't tell what it is yet. And so I would say, be mindful of that, and know that once you start telling people your dream and what you're working on, people will help. Like, I've been astounded at how much my community has looked out for me and supported me since day one. Like, literally my first consulting gig, I was talking to a mentor about my curiosity about consulting. And she was like, I need a website, name a price, set the timeline. And that was my first project. And then that gave me the confidence. Being forced to scope and set a price and be scared about asking for money from someone I knew just pushed me to realize, like, oh snap, I could do this. You know, I'm doing it for corporations who pay me a fraction of the price. So why not try to do it for myself? And so it really does feel like a movement, you know, women supporting women, Black women supporting Black women, Black and brown women supporting each other too. So yeah, you know, I would say like 90% of my service providers, our clients, are like women-led organizations and businesses. And so really sidestepping
Yeah, just like, nope.
white supremacy, you know. Yeah, so it's a joy, it's painful, it's fun, it's worth it. And, you know, also not being afraid to say, like, you know what, this isn't working anymore. People start and stop businesses all the time and move on. So
I want to make a t-shirt, tell people your dream. That really is where it all starts. You have to name the thing that you want. And I love this idea that you're making something, you don't know quite what it is yet, but it's just everyday bits. And oh, I feel you so much on that. Like, at the end of the day, you're alone. Like, and so you have to have that community. Evie, you have been a part of the Work It Plus since really our beginning, and your work is beautiful, and it is just an honor and a pleasure to have been partnering with you over these many years, in this collective project to win paid family leave, but also in the project to challenge the status quo and the way that we do business. And you are an inspiration, and I thank you so much for your time today and for this interview. I learned a ton, and I think everyone who sees it will too.
Thank you, Katie.